Hey, welcome back or welcome to Conscious Conversations. My name is Luke McLean. I'm a meditation teacher and I'm a mindfulness coach where I do a lot of work with people to provide clarity or help them provide clarity for themselves and create some space for them to find their true purpose, their authenticity and their right path. Because I think everything we've got is within inside us, but sometimes it can get busy and overwhelmed and we get lost. And it's just a matter of helping and working with people to find that within themselves. So that's really, the essence or the crux of the work that I do. It's a really meditation and mindfulness based coaching practice that I work with people and leaders and teams on. This podcast is a real reflection of the work that I do, because what I do in Conscious Conversations is catch up with people that I believe are living a really conscious and authentic life, a real purposeful life. It's a lot around wellness and mindfulness and meditation. I catch up with some authors and all sorts of different people that have got these amazing stories of transition and transcendence that they've taken, and also to talk about their story of where they came from, but the tools and beliefs and values that they've drawn upon to live that way and to be successful in that way. So that's really important for me, and I think these podcasts do capture that. And this one's really out of the box because Nicho Plowman, who's the co-owner of Timer, which is a meditation app that I've spoken about before, but Nicho was 5 years ago sort of living that corporate life and sort of found meditation and mindfulness, tried to transition into it a little bit. He found that he got sort of dragged back to corporate life. He'd go on a retreat and feel great and then get dragged back again, until he sort of made the decision to do 12 months of intensive meditation teacher practice. Then he became a meditation teacher, and with his brother Chris, went over to San Fran, I think it was, and bought Timer, which had 100,000 users at the time, which is an amazing story. Timer now has about 6 million people have signed on, and hundreds of thousands of people meditate on this every day. This is the most used meditation app by far on the market, and you consider there's some heavy players around, Headspace and those types of apps and Calm. But Timer has the majority of the audience share because of the community it creates. So we get into Nicho's story, how he's used his business, his business savvy really to bring to a conscious community and really do good with it. I also talked about his retreat company that he's starting, and what he's up to in that space, because this is a journey for him of self-discovery, but also how he's used previous skills with business to create this amazing app that everyone can use. So without further ado, I hope you like this conversation with Nicho Plowman. So we've got Nicho Plowman from a few things. Is it Edmund and Amelia? Is that the other company you've got, Nicho?
Yeah, so I have recently started a retreats company called Edmund and Amelia.
Beautiful.
With my partner Katia and Sir Edmund Hillary, who we all, well, at least to us in the Southern Hemisphere, will know as the person who scaled Mount Everest first. Yep. Amelia Earhart, who did great things in aviation, and we felt that was a nice combination of purpose and fearlessness and masculine and feminine, and a little bit of a hark back to the old days of it. That's
an awesome name. Like when you put those together and tell that story, yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's been good. Look, very early days, and we really pulled together a brand and that reflected that. And we launched. We've got 3 retreats coming up this year. One in upstate New York, and then the second one will be in India. I run retreats in India each year, and then a third in Switzerland. So it's looking, it's looking good. So that's sort of been one thing that's sort of spun out of, I guess, my journey into meditation over the last, 5 years teaching, and before that, a whole range of things.
All right, cool, mate, cool. So can we dig into, where your meditation and mindfulness journey began? Like, did it start, relatively recently, or was it something from a childhood that has, planted seeds and sort of evolved?
So certainly more the former, but I started exploring things in my early 30s. I was a little unwell. I wouldn't say I was sort of seriously unwell, but I had something that flared up when I was about 32 years old, and I sort of embarked on a really focused program of yoga. Back then, everyone was doing Bikram yoga.
Yeah.
I was a pretty sort of all or nothing type of person back then. Work hard, play hard, did all that, and so I went and learned Bikram yoga, and then of course did the 60 days straight and into that. And stopped eating anything that was not healthy for me. And for about 9 months there, had a really sort of very conscious experience. And then got married and children and was building a software company. So a lot of travel around the world. My wife at the time had a very fast growing business as well, a fashion business. So between the two of us, it was really busy, young children.
Yeah.
But I was curious about what it meant to go off and find something healthy and good for my body, and I'd go to retreat places and I'd explore different types of meditation. But I found really in that next 5 years that I didn't, whenever I went away and had a great experience, if I came back to this household lifestyle, which is, children and businesses and those sorts of things, I couldn't maintain whatever practice it was that I'd kind of, learned for that year. And it wasn't until 8 years ago that I met someone in Sydney who taught me Vedic meditation.
Beautiful. Okay.
And mantra-based practice, 20 minutes twice a day. And, a week later I was still doing it twice a day, a month later, and hey, here I am still meditating twice a day. And for me, the practicality of that practice, and then what I found to be the very quick benefits that came from it, it just worked for me. And I, over the ensuing 2 years, ended up selling out of the business that I'd spent some time building and made the decision to become a teacher. I spent 12 months, very, sort of intensive 12 months studying to be a teacher, and I've now been teaching for almost 6 years.
Mate.
So,
okay.
It's, and really it was a pretty fast 180 from what was a busy, I was fit, but it wasn't overly healthy when it came to playing and, going out and those sorts of things. And then I sort of decided just to pin my ears back and go the other way. And so it's been all that, since then.
So, Nicho, for a lot of people, I think, are in that similar situation, and, there's an element of awareness that gets raised, and similar to myself earlier on, and then there's quite a long transition to that 180 that actually takes place, and that 180 can then happen, as you said, quite quickly, but the build-up can be quite slow. Can you just dig a little bit more into, how did that feel when you were going away for those retreats, but not being able to maintain it in the day-to-day realm, but then how that converted to a full 180? Yeah,
really good question. And I think we're all researching, consciously, subconsciously. And what I think we all do is humanity has a sense of its deeper, more conscious experience. We have to really, there's a subconscious layer which is more empathetic and compassionate and happy and all those types of things. We kind of all know that about human nature because we see it on display. But when human nature is challenged and there's the stresses of normal life or the stresses of the macro, which, play out politically, socioeconomically, all those types of things, the nervous system gets overwhelmed. And so we struggle a bit. Now, so I think so we might have moments of expansion and then we contract and expand and contract. And often enough, I think, our identity can get caught up in what it means to go away for a weekend and learn a meditation practice or spend a month, do no alcohol for the month of February or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And at the end of these experiences, we feel good, but then we don't, it's hard back in that busy life to maintain it, right?
Because is it because, do you think, Nicho, sorry, but because in societal these days, it's not the norm. Like, it's not the norm to not drink forever, and it's not the norm to continually slow down every day and pause and create space. Do you think that's because it's the society doesn't really allow that as being perceived as what we do?
Well, that's a really so. I think it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
We would, if we were to look at the noisy end of the spectrum at the moment, we might say that societies around the world are driven by populism, by a lot of noise, by social media, and we get distracted by the noisiness of that edge of the spectrum that doesn't feel so good. Let's call it for that moment. Okay, quite destructive in some ways. At the same time, we have this undercurrent, but it's quieter and it's softer, which is this expansion of mindfulness and otherwise. We're having this conversation right now because there's something going on.
Yeah.
And, my brother and I bought a meditation app 4 years ago with 100,000 users. We've now got over 6 million.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
I like to think we've done a good job at doing a whole range of things to make that product better and to bring conscious experiences to people. But we wouldn't have done what we've done if there wasn't an appetite for a different way to be and a different way to feel and those types of things. So just as you can say that people who preach division and anger have an audience, you also can say that the platforms and teachers and otherwise who lead with knowledge and a certain way to be relate to others. And so we've actually got there's polarity at the moment, which is interesting. And there's this it's that power versus force. You've got the force of the noise and the anger and the division, and you've got that soft power of where consciousness may be shifting. So back to the question you ask, I think at the moment, if we look at the mediums that people are considering or find appealing, it is the social media, it is the people with 120 million Instagram followers, and it is all that sort of thing. It is the idea that we're going to get satisfied through the material and through the relative, when of course we know that just doesn't have much longevity to it.
Yeah.
And so we have this little idea. We remember our true nature, which may be that we have we have an experience, or we go away for something, we learn to meditate, or we spend 30 days not drinking, or we go on a health kick, or we eat well. We have this we kind of remember our true nature. And then we have this period of forgetfulness. And then we might remember again and forget again. In fact, humanity's doing that too, but it's just in big cycles. It's like in sort of 5,000-year cycles. And so at an individual level, we have this expansion. We remember, we contract, we forget. And I think as people start to open the doors further into their little conscious journey, I think the gaps just get smaller. And then people who, as you say, they go on that steady little experience, and then eventually something clicks and they're like, okay, I'm running with a different way to live, right?
Yeah.
Does that answer it?
I think you're right. I think it really does sum it up. And, the baseline, I think too, Nicho, is what everyone is doing the best they can with what they've got. So like they want to live good lives. Most people want to be happier and more content and have more space and respond in a true and beautiful nature. They're trying to do the best they can with the knowledge they got in the environment they're in, and it's not always as easy to do that because often there's, again, the awakening of the consciousness of the knowledge, and the environment's not conducive to the response that they would prefer to have given because of stress and things like that.
That's right.
So I think what you're saying is, exactly spot on.
Well, to simplify it further is that, and this is when I sit down and give intro talks for meditation courses, whatever it might be, and we've heard it before, but we're all in our conscious cinema, life's a movie, all that sort of thing. And if you're in the front row of your conscious cinema, then your nervous system is going to be reacting to the experiences that you're having. And so I see, hear and feel experiences, and that triggers a whole bunch of things that go on in your nervous system, the chemical makeup, the adrenaline, the cortisol, and of course you feel stressed and you feel anxious.
Yeah.
And so you're going to respond in a way that isn't probably the best version of yourself. But if you're able to adopt a practice, a meditation practice, a daily practice, and otherwise, you're going to be releasing a whole bunch of the chemicals, which is endorphins and serotonins and things. Your body's going to relax. It's going to release fatigue. You're going to access energy and creativity, and you move back in your conscious cinema. And so from a comfortable place in the conscious cinema, there might be stressful experiences, but you're going to be, you're going to have more time